to use you against the other. Dr. Rodney is used against black people every day. Dr. Rodney was this man who wanted love with the other races, and the rest of you all don't want that, which is not true, right? So I would want to know from Dr. Walter Rodney, if he were to do that again, if he would pay closer attention to how he articulated his multiracial vision.
Dr. Hinds, do you think that there exists in the political theater the right political vocabulary to bring this kind of cohesiveness among the races?
No, I think we're getting there, but we have to discover that, we have to develop that vocabulary. Let me tell you, in 2011, I campaigned for the APNU. And I can tell you at all the meetings, when we said to the crowds, we are fighting these elections to set up a government of national unity, it was uproar. There was a vociferous applause. And that the people understood government of national unity. You know, we did not pursue it vigorously after the election, but I'm giving you that as an example of the kind of vocabulary. You know, in divided societies, you have to talk about unity, but you also have to talk about importance of people's positions. You know, we can't be telling Indian people you're racist because you vote PPP, or you're racist because you vote PNC or APNU or the coalition. We can't be doing that. You know, that is the wrong kind of rhetoric. We have to let them feel that we respect where they are and try to use the kind of rhetoric that respects where they are, but also try to advance on that, try to build on that. And I think Rodney was probably the best in that. The rest of us have failed.
Wow. In the chat room, Harold said, can it be that civil society is intimidated?
Yes.
And
yes.
Raquel TC said, powerful point on racial voting. Ethnic voting is not racist. Agree that civil society needs to be fighting racism. Harold said, the whole Guyanese society has been beaten down and battered by years of political turmoil. They are battle weary. The politicians should recognize this and show some mercy for these poor people. Harold said again, a house divided cannot stand. Guyana cannot move forward unless the people unite. Dr. Hinds, I want to read something I read on your wall that really resonated with me. It said, I was born in Buxton. I grew up there. I was educated there. I learned my politics there. I learned dignity there. I learned resistance there. I learned to talk back and to fight back. I learned to be Guyanese, Caribbean, and African right there. I was instantly drawn to these words and felt a connectedness to my country. What was your message in that missive, and who did you actually intend it for?
I intended it for those people who see life in compartments, right? And not to see us as people who respond to multiple challenges, but do so from a common perspective. You know, Brother Selwyn, when I'm in Guyana and you ask me where I come from, I don't say I come from Guyana, I say I'm from Buxton.
Yes.
Right? When I'm in Buxton, you ask me which part of Buxton you're from, I say Line Top. When I leave Guyana and I land in Piarco, and I'm sitting there waiting with other Caribbean people to go to North America, and someone asks me where I come from, I say I come from Guyana.
Yes.
When I land at JFK or Miami, and you ask me where I come from, I'm there with a whole set of people from the rest of the world, I say I'm Caribbean. And when I come to Arizona, and you look at me, among the 2 or 3% black people living in this state, and you ask me, who are you? I say I'm a black man. I'm all of those things.
Yes.
And in one day, in 15 hours of traveling, I'm able to call on each of those identities. I don't see any contradiction in between them. You know, I I am for multiracialism. I'm for multiracial government of national unity. I'm for unity between Africans and Indians and Amerindians and Chinese and Portuguese and others. I'm for all of those things. But I don't have to say I stop being an African in order to be a Guyanese. I'm a Guyanese because I'm an African, because Guyanese is a combination of Africans and Indians and Amerindians and so on and so forth. So I don't have to holler in black people or to deny my blackness to be a Guyanese. We are all one and the same thing. And so therefore I was addressing that to us Guyanese to say, get off this thing that one needs to stop being an Indian or stop being an African to be a Guyanese. In fact, I think that East Indians will respect black people more if they are authentic about who they are and vice versa.
I agree.
There's more respect there than when you go and in order to prove to Indians or prove to Africans that you like them, you condemn who you are. And I think we've been doing some of that, which is not healthy.
Dr. Hinds, you have spent some time with the WPA. You've studied Dr. Walter Rodney's works. What, and I know you must have read lots of pearls of wisdom, but what is one thing that still resonates with you that he has said?
There are quite a lot, but probably the one I should mention here is that he says, since we talk about civil society, he says intellectuals and academics and professionals have a duty to the people of their country. That is, that we who have been lucky to read books and to get degrees and have big jobs and so on, we owe that to the masses of people who have made tremendous sacrifices to open up those opportunities for us.
Oh, wow.
Or we have an almost inherent duty to give back to the people. And so therefore, you know, I don't like the term civil society because it suggests that you're some way above the rest of the society. I feel that whether you're a professor, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a lawyer or a professional business person, that part of your work, given Rodney's old praxis, part of your work is to go among the masses and to work with them. And I think that is one of the things that I have taken away from Walter Rodney. The second thing, you ask for one, but I'm going to give a second one. The second thing I take away from Walter Rodney is that he says, you know, our unity must be based on jointness. He used that term, jointness. You know, you can have unity with one group having 80% of the power and the other one get 20. That's unity, right? But for Rodney, that unity must do and must be based on equality and jointness. And so therefore, I think that is one of the ways of, we must not only talk about a government of national unity, but we must talk about a government of national unity that is based on the equality across ethnic lines, equality across class lines, and very importantly, equality across gender lines. Often when we talk about national unity, we talk about East Indians and Africans coming together, and not necessarily coming together as equals. But we also leave out social class, that we must have equality across social class. It doesn't mean that, you know, everybody will necessarily become rich. But what it means is that the rich should not be allowed to get richer while the poor gets poorer. One is only rich because there's some people who are poor. And I think that a government of national unity has to look into the bizarre social inequality that exists across ethnic lines. And finally, gender equality. And when I speak about gender equality, I'm not speaking about how many women you appoint to your cabinet or whether you put a woman as prime ministerial candidate. I'm talking about the female perspective, the woman perspective, being part of the larger perspective. I read an interview in this morning papers by Mrs. Harper, and when I shook my head, because I said, here is this woman not articulating a new vision based on or gender or ethnicity or class. She is just defending this male chauvinist political system that we have. You know, so here she is defending 22 years of PPP's rule, which is hardly based on ethnic, social, and gender equality.
Harold in the chat room said, regardless of political preference, people should put country first. If the country progresses, success will be assured for all. Dr. Hinds, you know, time has a way of just running out on us, but I want to ask you this. You're from Buxton, and create a hypothetical. You're visiting, and you're surrounded by a group of young men from Buxton, many of whom may be jobless, and they are disillusioned with life as it is in Guyana, their life. And then they're telling you about their ambivalence about voting, they're telling you about their doubts and so on, and don't want to go out and vote. You have an opportunity now to talk to them about voting, the importance of it and so on. What would you say?
Well, I would start off by telling them that voting will not necessarily solve your joblessness and your economic problems. We have seen that over and over again. People go to vote for governments of their choice, and the governments don't help with their social problems. So I'll start off by telling them that. But I will also tell them that it is the system we have, that one of the few legitimate ways of making change is through the ballot. Now you have an alternative. You can go and block up the streets and behave bad. That has never solved Guyana's problems. We've been through that. We have had riots and violence. It has not solved our problems. So I would say to them, as much as you may think that that's an alternative, it is not an alternative. You know, that must be the last resort. That there are options before you. And the most potent option is the option to vote. It is inadequate, but it is what we have. It is the only option we have at this political juncture. And so we need to make that option work for us. Not to see it as the final solution, but to see it as the first step in the direction of solving your social problems. So that is how I would explain it to them. I would not lie to them and tell them the sky will fall down on you and you will get a job the next day if the coalition wins, because it's a lie. But I will say to them that it is the best opportunity we have at the moment in order to advance your social situation. That if you vote the coalition, what you will be doing is that you will be attempting to create a new environment and to create a new kind of leadership that is going to be responsive to your needs. But having voted for that government, you have to be prepared to defend your vote. That is, after voting for that government, you have to stand up to that government and hold that government feet to the fire to ensure that they do not go the way of other governments. Let me quickly say, Selwyn, the person who said country must come first. I will amend that to say country, individual, family, and group are equal. It mustn't, if you say country come first and my family comes second, or my ethnic group comes second, or my village comes second, we're only fooling ourselves. The individual, the ethnic group, the social group, the family are equally important of country. Country is an idea. The country is an idea. Without the family, without the ethnic groups, without the social groups, there will be no country. So to say to put country first is to say to put the idea first rather than the essence. And the essence of a country are all those multiple groups that we have. And so each of them must be equal to make the idea of country. To say country first is to is to talk about something that is vague. What is country? What is country? Country is an idea that all of us together in that space say that we subscribe to this idea called Guyana. But that idea has to be developed. Guyana is a work in progress. Guyana is an idea in progress. Look, you look at all European societies, they take centuries before you can talk about country before people. I think it's very dangerous for us to go down that road because that's what the politicians do. When you oppose them, they tell you, you put in yourself before country. When you say, I don't have job, I don't have food, they say, you're working against the country. When the opposition say, we're not allowing you to spend money wildly on trivial things, they say, you're working against the country. Country has always been used as a means of battering individuals and groups and working people. Stay away from that thing of country first.
Sam in the chat room asked, would you support legislation or a constitutional amendment that would impeach the president if he or she violates oath of office?
Yes, yes, without reservation.
Dr. Hinds, can you close us out with a word or words from Dr. Walter Rodney, please?
You know, Dr. Walter Rodney says, assassination is the act of one man, but it takes a people to move a revolution forward and to build a country. And I want to say that you know, the assassination of our brother recently was the act of one man, probably acting in concert with others. But the assassin should not be allowed to gain sway over a country. Yes, I agree with the previous contributor that civil society is intimidated. And I think Walter Rodney would want us, in his own words, to not be intimidated. In his very last speech, he says, we should not, I am not intimidated, I will not be intimidated, and we should not be intimidated. I want to draw strength from those words, and I want us as Guyanese, to whatever we do, not to be intimidated. Resistance is a central aspect of Guyanese and Caribbean culture. It has to be. We started to resist on the Middle Passage. Even before we got onto those boats, we were resisting on the shores of Africa. Without resistance, slavery would not have ended. Without resistance, colonialism would not have ended. Whenever we have won anything, it has been through resistance. And one of the things is that over the last 20 or 30 years, we have given up that right to resist. We have given in to fear. We have given in to demagoguery. We have given in to this whole notion that I am democratic. And I would say, drawing on Walter Rodney, let us rediscover that spirit of resistance. And resistance must not only be against those who we do not prefer, but it should also be against those whom we prefer. And if we rekindle that spirit of resistance among our people, that becomes a very powerful check against overreach and government authoritarianism.
Dr. Hinds, thank you so very much for a full evening. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And I'm looking forward to conversing with you again. I think we have a wonderful opportunity to learn a lot from you, a lot about our history, and lots of social and political consciousness. I appreciate you coming on, and I'm looking forward to that panel that we discussed a couple of days ago.
Yes, and thank you for inviting me. I have to publicly say that I learned that you had invited me before, and for some reason I missed the mail. I am not one of those people who pick and choose where to go. I will speak wherever people want me to speak, and I want to apologize to you and to say that thank you for, despite what you may have probably interpreted as a snub, that it was not. I totally missed it. And I enjoy being here as I enjoy being everywhere, wherever there is a chance to talk and to converse with our people. I am always there. And to thank you again for inviting me and for doing this public service. Often we do not pay enough, give enough credit to persons like yourself, who at your own expense, and sometimes at the expense of time that you can be spending with family and on the job and so on, to do these kind of public service initiatives. And they play an important role in spreading the word, in giving nourishment to our people. And as a forum for discussion, I would like to say enlightened discussion is not always, but any discussion is better than no discussion. So thank you very much, brother, for what you're doing.
You're welcome.
And to thank your viewers and listeners, because without them, there is no program.
That is true.
Yes. So I'm glad to be here, and thank you very much.
Thank you. So thank you very much for tuning in. And Dr. Hinds, once again, thank you, my brother.
You're welcome.
All right. Good night.
Yeah.